And the learning objectives include name the major primary and opportunistic fungal pathogens. This is first objective. Second is describe the main pathogenic mechanisms of histoplasma capsulatum, which is a primary pathogen fungus, and Candida albicans, which is the most common opportunistic fungal pathogen. So basically, first of all, we should discuss what are the types of fungal infections according to the site. So the fungus can cause infection on the surface of the skin and can cause disfiguration like the Malassezia purpura. It is a lipid-loving fungus, so it lives only in the surface lipid or surface oil of the skin only. Second category of the fungal infection site is a cutaneous mycosis. Cutaneous means it affects only the skin, because skin, you know, it is made up of keratin. So these three fungus, Trichophyton, Microsporum and Epidermophyton, they love keratin. They love to grow on keratin. That is why these are known as keratinophilic fungi. So these are the three fungus which are known as dermatophytic fungi or dermatophytes. Okay. So they affect only the structures which are made up of keratin, like skin, hair, and nail. So the first category we discussed was the superficial, which is not affecting the skin even, only the lipid on the surface or only the oil of the skin they affect. Second is dermatophytes, which affect the keratin layer, which is a dead layer on the skin. Third type of the fungal infection is subcutaneous mycosis, in which the fungus affect the tissues below the skin. Like example of this mycosis is mycetoma. These two categories are the systemic mycosis and opportunistic fungal infection. These are the other sites, you can say, or types of the fungal infection. Systemic mycosis is caused by the fungi which are dimorphic or the primary fungal pathogen. Example is histoplasmosis. And opportunistic fungal pathogens are those fungi which cause infection, systemic infection, only when the immunity is low. Although these can cause infection on the surface of the skin, they can cause allergy, something else. But invasive infection, they cannot cause, opportunistic fungi, they cannot cause invasive infection until unless the immunity is broken or the person is immunocompromised. So in this lecture, we will discuss the systemic mycosis and opportunistic fungal infections. The other infections, if you see, somebody was asking to me, one student, doctor, whether these are also primary pathogen or not, because the superficial mycosis, cutaneous mycosis, they are not affected by the immune system. Tell me why? Because the dermatophyte, they are affecting the already dead skin cell, keratin, non-living thing. So immunity does not play the role in the hair, does not play the role in nails. So we cannot categorize in that category these things. Superficial mycosis, that affect only the lipid. It does not is not invading the tissues. So these are away from them. Okay. So we cannot call them the primary fungal pathogen or true pathogen. But they are causing disease because they are affecting the dead tissue of the body, and that is why causing the disease. And systemic mycosis and opportunistic mycosis, this name is in relation to the systemic infection. Systemic infection means any bacteria, fungus, or pathogen, when enter inside the bloodstream, goes into different tissues, maybe in the lung, maybe in the brain, or maybe in the liver or bone marrow, and cause disease there, multiply there. That is known as systemic infection. So the primary fungal pathogens, they can cause systemic infection even in the healthy people like us with good immunity. Example of that primary pathogen of systemic mycosis is histoplasmosis. And opportunistic fungi cause systemic infection only and only when the immunity is very, very low. In normal person, opportunistic fungi cannot cause systemic infection, cannot invade into the blood, but even in a normal person, opportunistic fungus can cause superficial infection. Like on the mucous membrane, they can cause candidiasis, but that does not mean that this is an invasive infection. On surface, they can cause infection. Is that clear? So systemic mycosis or primary fungal pathogen and opportunistic fungal pathogen is in relation to the invasive infection by the fungi. Now we review the fungi on the basis of their morphology. Fungi can be either yeast form, which is round or oval cells fungus. Okay, this is the morphology oval, this is yeast. Or they can be mold. In case of mold, they are like thread or filament, long. Okay. And these molds are also of two types, septate hyphae and aseptate hyphae. Hyphae means the strand or filament of the fungus. In septate hyphae, the filament is septate, fungal filament, and in aseptate hyphae, there is no septa in between the long filament of the fungus. Okay. And third category is dimorphic. These dimorphic fungi, they occur in both the forms, in the yeast form also and in the septate form or the mold form also. Yeast form occur at 37 degrees Celsius and mold form occurs at outside the body at the room temperature. Example of these dimorphic fungi are given here: Histoplasma capsulatum, Blastomyces dermatitis, Coccidioides, Coccidioides brasiliensis. But the important feature is that I want to emphasize here that all the dimorphic fungi are primary fungal pathogen or systemic fungal pathogen, you can say, or you can say all the systemic fungal pathogens, they are dimorphic. Inside the body, they are yeast. Outside the body, they live on the decaying material as molds. So I want to begin the further discussion, but before that, I think all of you have written your attendance. So I want to take your attendance. So we should. So I think all of you have written your attendance. If you have not written, please write right now. Type your ID if you have not written. Okay, I think all of you have written it. This is your attendance. 1 minute, I will tell you who are present, who are absent. Who is this student?
That's me.
1-2, huh?
That's me, Doctor.
What is your name?
Raad Al-Utaybi.
Your ID number here is correct?
Yes.
No. You are from Shakra or Dawadmi?
Dawadmi.
Okay, let me check. 0012. Where are you?
Yeah, it shows like the seventh one. 8.
8. Rad.
Yes.
So 43842. What is the problem here? But okay. So even if you type your ID. If there is any discrepancy, it will not show your name and I can find you. So there is no chance of any mistake. I can ask you again. Okay. So all students' names are displayed here. And now I am telling you who are present, who are absent. In Shakara, 15 students are absent. Ahmad Muhammad Al Zawaid, absent. Saud Ali as Al-Abadi, absent. Abdullah Hassan Guvedi, absent. Khalid Walid Abdul Rahman, absent. Abdul Malik Hamad, absent. Salman Nasir, absent. Rakan Badr, absent. Abdulillah, absent. Naif Oit, absent.
Dr. Naif here, Doctor.
Naif, you didn't type your ID.
Okay.
Please type your ID in the chat.
Okay.
Hamad Fahad, absent. Lue, absent. Abdullah Nail, absent. Saad Faris, absent. Khalid Abdullah, absent. Abdul Aziz Hassan, absent. This was Shakra. Now Dawadmi, 18 students are absent. Abdullah Safar, absent. Nasir Naif, absent. Abdul Rahman Hamoud, absent. Mansoor Khalid, absent. Abdul Mohsin, absent. Muhammad Abdul Rahman, absent. Nawaf Abdullah, absent. Dafir Mubarak, absent. Muhammad Khalid, absent. Abdul Wahab, absent. Faris Suhail, absent. Abdullah Zahim, absent.
I am present.
You are present, Abdullah Zahim?
Yes.
Please type your ID in the chat. You have written?
Okay.
Please type. Raja Awad, because computer will take automatically your attendance. Okay. Raja Awad, absent. Muhammad Mushabab, absent. Badr Nasir, absent. Abdul Aziz Saleh, absent. Abdul Majid, absent. Sultan Sail, absent. After the lecture, I will take again your attendance. If anybody absent here, please type your ID in the chat because attendance will be taken by computer. Okay. So now we have to see what is the difference between primary fungal pathogen and opportunistic fungal pathogen. Because that is the main topic, you can say the learning objective. Name the major primary and opportunistic fungal pathogens. So in the beginning, we discussed the classification, how many types of fungi are there, where the systemic and opportunistic fungi are there. Okay. What is the morphology, where the primary pathogens look like. Primary pathogens are dimorphic. Now we come to the difference or what is the feature. So primary fungal pathogens is the first one. These fungi can cause invasive systemic infection. See, the word invasive is crucial. Invasive systemic infection in normal healthy individuals with normal immune system. Another feature is all these fungi are thermally dimorphic. Means inside the body they are yeast and outside the body they grow as mold. And about opportunistic fungal pathogens, these fungi, they do not cause invasive infection in normal healthy individuals. They can cause invasive infection only in the people who have a very weak immune system. Then what infection they cause in normal healthy people? In normal healthy people, they can colonize the surface of the skin or mucosa and can cause disease there, only on the surface, not in the deep. In immunocompromised people, they can invade deep inside the tissue, mucosal barrier or skin barrier, can cause invasive infection. So that is the difference. Is that clear? And now we will look at the names of the fungi which are primary fungal pathogen, names of the fungi which are the opportunistic fungal pathogen. And then we discuss one member of the primary fungal pathogen and one member of the opportunistic fungal pathogen. This is the lecture. But before that, what makes the primary fungal pathogen like that, and how our body reacts to the fungal infection? It is given here. This is for you to read the same thing I am going to explain to you. Whenever a fungus enters inside the body, the main defense against the fungus is our phagocytic cells like neutrophils and phagocytes. And these neutrophils and phagocytes, they eat away all the fungi, kills them by the lysosome. So all the opportunistic fungi, which cannot cause infection in the healthy people, they are easily killed by normal neutrophil and normal macrophages. Okay. But primary fungal pathogen, or those fungi which cause invasive infection in the normal healthy people, these fungi, when they invade inside the body, in the blood or tissues, the neutrophil or macrophages can eat them, but they cannot kill them. Why? Because they have mechanism to avoid killing by their lysosome. So the macrophages cannot kill easily the primary fungal pathogen. That is why these primary fungal pathogens, they cause infection even in the healthy people, the invasive infection. Then how these fungal infections are killed then? They are killed because the normal macrophage in our body, which is not activated, that can kill only the opportunistic fungal pathogen. But after the infection of primary fungal pathogen or the true fungal pathogen, which cause systemic disease, the macrophage cannot kill it. And when macrophage cannot kill it, then the T cell activity is stimulated, and the T cells, they stimulate the macrophages by secreting cytokines. So under the influence of the helper T cell, macrophage become 1,000 times more powerful to kill any bacteria or fungus. Alf times.
Change T cell to macrophage, right?
Yes, the T cells, they stimulate the macrophages. They help
By
them.
cytokinase.
By cytokines, not cytokinase. Okay.
Okay.
You will learn in the other lectures on immunity, because I am not explaining everything in the immunity. So once you know the immune system, there are different things are there discussed. How T cells, they stimulate macrophages, you will learn there, and you should learn. Okay. But here you should learn that under the influence of the helper T cell, macrophages become more powerful. They become 1,000 times or more than 1,000 times powerful to kill the pathogen. So after the cell-mediated immunity, the T cell immunity become activated, the macrophages can kill even the primary fungal pathogens. But not all, because different people, their immune response is different. Some people have a good immune response, some have. In majority of the people, after the cell-mediated immunity, most of the primary fungal pathogens, they are killed. But if the immunity is not good, it can cause a prolonged infection. Can you listen to me? Are you listening me clearly?
Yes, doctor.
Okay. And so these are the 4 primary fungal pathogens. Don't forget any of these 4. Although there are few more in this list, but for you people, I have listed those 4 most famous, most common. Okay. So these 4 primary fungal pathogens are Histoplasma capsulatum, Blastomyces dermatitis, Coccidioides immitis, Paracoccidioides brasiliensis. And all of them they are dimorphic. Morphologically, they are dimorphic. Inside the body, at body temperature 37 degrees Celsius, they are yeast in the morphology. And outside the body at 25 degrees Celsius, they grow as mold or filamentous fungus. Okay, so this is known as thermal dimorphism. So inside the body, they are yeast, and outside the body, they are filamentous fungi or mold. Now, example of the opportunistic fungi. The most common opportunistic fungus is the Candida. Okay. And other common opportunistic fungi include Aspergillus. This fungus grow on your bread. When we keep the bread outside or it becomes spoiled, green color or cotton-like fungus grows, that is Aspergillus. Then Cryptococcus neoformans is there, Mucor is there, Rhizopus is there. All of these are opportunistic fungi. And they do not invade normal people. They can invade the body of immunocompromised people. And this is the photograph just to show you, to remember you their names easily. This is blastomyces, this is coccidioides, histoplasma, this is paracoccidioides. Okay, you can see that. This is inside the body, they looks like this. But blastomyces looks like this. This is yeast form of the blastomyces. This is coccidioides, spherule. This is histoplasma, yeast form inside the body. This is paracoccidioides, yeast form inside the body. Outside the body, this is C. filamentous. This is also filament. This is also filamentous fungus. This is also filamentous fungus. So this is dimorphic. But Candida is a yeast. Cryptococcus neoformans is a capsulated yeast. And Aspergillus is a filamentous fungus, septate hypha. Okay. So now we discuss one example from both of them. We are going to discuss histoplasma from this category, primary pathogen, and we will discuss the Candida from opportunistic pathogen category. So we take histoplasma capsulatum. So as we know that histoplasma capsulatum is thermally dimorphic, as we already discussed. But from where the infection occur? This fungus, histoplasma, it grows in a soil which is rich in the nitrogen. But from where the nitrogen will come? So it grows especially in that soil below a tree or maybe in some special location where the birds are living. So when the birds live, they excrete their fecal matter, and their fecal matter is very rich in the nitrogen. And that soil is a very good environment for the growth of histoplasma capsulatum. You can see here, this is the tree or the bat. The dropping of the bat or the birds in the soil makes the soil very rich in the nitrogen, and in this soil, this fungus in the filamentous form growing is the histoplasma capsulatum. And this histoplasma capsulatum has two types of the spores. One is a smaller spore, you can see on the hyphae or the filament, small round structures. These are the microconidia. And the bigger structures you are seeing here, a round structure with the projections, this is tuberculate macroconidia. So the infection to the humans occur by the microconidia, smaller ones, because they can, you can see in the air, a smaller round structure, these are microconidia. With the air, they go through the nose into the lungs and they are deposited in the lungs. And the microconidia, they are eaten away by the macrophages, but the normal macrophage cannot kill, it cannot kill the fungus. Okay. So this microsporia, when it reaches the lungs, it changes into the yeast form first. And the yeast form is eaten away by the macrophage, and the macrophage cannot kill the yeast form. You should know that. And everything it is written here, I read with you again. Okay, the natural habitat of the mycelial form is the soil rich in the nitrogen, high in the nitrogen content. For example, the soil which is rich in the bird and bat dropping. Okay, two types of conidia are produced: microconidia and tuberculate macroconidia. Infection occur by the inhalation of microconidia. So you can understand where, at which side the infection can occur. It can occur by visiting the places where the birds are very rich or the bats are there, like the bat caves and other areas, or somebody is constructing a building and raising the dust in the air, and inhalation of that air, if it is containing the conidia or spores, it will cause problem. It will cause infection even in the normal. So how this conidia cause infection, I already discussed with you. This inhaled conidia first transformed into the yeast form. This yeast form is phagocytosed by the macrophage, but the macrophage avoid the killing by the macrophage. But the histoplasma avoid the killing by macrophage. How? Histoplasma survive inside the macrophage by increasing the pH of the lysosome or phagolysosome. This is known as alkalinization. So the lysosomal enzyme, they are active only at a acidic pH. And when the pH of the lysosome in the phagocyte becomes alkaline, it cannot kill the fungus. So this is the mechanism of histoplasma to survive inside the macrophage. So once inside the macrophage, it multiplies inside the macrophages. Inside the macrophage, it multiplies in large number. It kills the macrophage, and the yeast cell of the histoplasma comes out, infect other macrophages. So it affects a large number of macrophages inside the lung. And those macrophages, they travel out of the lung, they go to the lymph node, and they travel all the body, and they spread the infection all over the body. So how the infection is spread inside the body? It is taken away with the macrophages. And they concentrate mostly in the reticuloendothelial system organs. What are the reticuloendothelial system organs? The organs which are rich in the macrophages are known as reticuloendothelial organs, and the names of them are bone marrow, liver, spleen, lymph nodes. So if a person is suffering from histoplasma capsulatum infection, if we take the sample of any of these, maybe bone marrow biopsy or liver biopsy or lymph node, we will find a lot of histoplasma capsulatum yeast cells inside the macrophages. But once the cell-mediated immunity is activated, these macrophages become 1000 times more active, and they can clear the infection after the activation of the acquired immunity. So clinical features of histoplasma capsulatum are mostly 90% of the people who are infected with the histoplasma, they remain asymptomatic. Means they does not suffer any problem, no problem occur, and the histoplasma is killed by activation of T-cell immunity. This occurs when the number of conidia or number of the fungus entering the body is low. But if the number of the fungus entering in the body with the air is too many, then it can cause clinical infection. So what are the symptoms of the infection, acute infection? The acute infection looks like a flu, like fever, chills, headache, cough, muscle pain. Muscle pain is also known as myalgia, and chest pain. So these are the symptoms. They're like any fever or flu, the acute symptoms occur. After the acute symptom, if the cell-mediated immunity activate and immunity is good, then it kills all the histoplasma. Otherwise, if the body cannot eliminate histoplasma after even the T-cell activation, then disseminated histoplasmosis from the lung, the histoplasma is spread all over the body then. Okay? And this disseminated histoplasmosis occurs in one patient out of the 2000 infected patients. And the disseminated histoplasmosis is characterized by weight loss, fatigue, and with or without fever. There may be ulcers in the oral cavity. There may be enlargement of the liver and spleen. And the bone marrow, if it is affected, because bone marrow is also a reticuloendothelial system organ. If the bone marrow is affected by the histoplasma, it causes anemia, leukopenia. Leukopenia means low number of the white blood cells, and thrombocytopenia. So these are the features of histoplasma capsulatum. Now we come to the Candida species. So Candida, before I discuss, let me see, only 6 minutes are left. So, and only few slides are left also. So maybe I can cover it. So Candida, you can see that the morphology of Candida is a yeast. It is an yeast, and it is the most common opportunistic fungus. And the source of infection of Candida is endogenous. Endogenous means normally it is found in the gastrointestinal tract and the skin and in the female genital tract, but in the low number. The number of this fungus is very low. And the site of infection, normally where it causes infection, because it is living on the skin, in the mucous membrane. So there only when its number increases in the mucosa, it causes mucosal candidiasis or on the skin candidiasis. But deeper infection like systemic candidiasis and deep tissue, they occur only when the immunity is low, not in normal person. Okay, so the cutaneous and mucocutaneous candidiasis occur even in the healthy people when the number of fungus increases too much. So what are the risk factors of candida infection? These include the diabetes mellitus, broad spectrum antibiotics, area of skin which remain wet, frequently moist, okay, or the indwelling catheters like urinary catheter or intravenous catheter, immunosuppressive drugs, organ transplantation aids, like that. See here, I want to discuss few risk factors. As you see here, use of immunosuppressive drugs, organ transplant and AIDS. All of these three cause decrease in the immunity. That is why it cause more infection with the candida. And diabetes mellitus, why it cause more infection with the candida? Because number one, immunity becomes slightly low, not very much low. Another thing, there is too much sugar there inside the body in diabetes. And the sugar is a very good food for candida or any other fungus. So the fungal infections are more common in diabetes for that reason because of the high sugar content inside the body. What about broad spectrum antibiotic? Broad spectrum antibiotic kill all the normal bacteria which are present in our intestine, because in our intestine we have healthy bacteria normally inside our body. If we take broad spectrum antibiotic, very strong antibiotics, they kill even the healthy bacteria also. But the antibiotics kill bacteria only, not the fungus. And the candida is also present inside the mucosa. So when there is no bacteria available around, the candida is not facing any competition. It is not stopped by any other bacteria, and it multiplies, become very much large in the number, and can cause mucosal infection in that case. So these two things I discussed, and they cause other risk factor either cause decrease in the immunity or the damage to the tissues. That is why they favors the candida infection. Pathogenesis of candidiasis. Okay, I will discuss this, but before that, I should say some of you people have written their ID after taking first attendance, but okay, it is being saved, no problem. So for pathogenesis of candida, first of all, it should attach to the surface of the epithelium. So attachment of the candida occurs to the epithelial surface by the help of the cell wall glycoprotein of the candida, number one. Another thing, for the invasive infection to occur, that candida cells can invade inside the tissues and cause invasive infection. For that, the morphology of the yeast cell should change to the pseudohyphae. That is very important. Because on the tip of the growing pseudohyphae, there are many enzymes like aspartyl proteinase and phospholipase enzymes. And these enzymes, they dissolve the surrounding tissues and the cells. They damage the tissues and cells, and that is why through that damage, the candida can enter inside the tissues. Another important feature is that the pseudohypha of the candida albicans exhibit thigmotropism. Thigmotropism means it has a sense of touch. So it allows this candida to grow along the grooves of the skin or the mucosa or between the cells, and through the pores between the cells, it helps the candida to invade inside the epithelial tissues. But once the organism invade inside the tissues, the neutrophils and phagocytes, they can easily kill the fungus in the normal person, the candida. But when the immunity is very, very low, the candida will not be killed and can cause invasive infection in that case if the immunity is very low. Another important feature of the candida is that it forms a film, which is known as a biofilm on the surface of catheters or artificial things. So that is why if somebody is catheterized, urinary catheter or IV catheter, on the surface of that, it forms a film, which is known as biofilm, and it can easily survive. There, the phagocyte cannot kill it, and it can cause infection in those patients. These are the examples of few infection in the healthy people. So this is the oral candidiasis. On the surface of the mucosa, white color patch. So it is not invading deep. It can occur in the healthy people, especially in the diabetic patients. And this is the nappy rash in the infants, because infants frequently urinate and this area remains wet. That is why the infection can occur. Infection can also occur in the females in the vagina. It can cause on the surface vaginal candidiasis, or below the breast, or in the moist area in the skin. There the infection with the candida can occur. That's all. So those who were marked absent before, they can again join because it is okay, and I will show them their attendance. The lecture is over.
Can we leave?